The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. I got to tell you, today's show, we actually have two shows today, but today, our first show today, we did something that in 12 years we have never done before. We get such enjoyment and such great letters from you, the listeners, about this show that we have added, where this was just a Tampa show. This is now the state of Florida show. And we've never done that before, but this first expert absolutely deserves it. The amount of educational information he provides is amazing. Let me welcome you to our long-standing friend, Ray Ferrara, Provise Management Group. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve. Happy Monday to you, as always.
Yes, I love doing this show. It is probably one of the easiest shows to do. The information you provide, the money management information you provide, is always so right on. And, now that we've extended your show to the state of Florida, tell people about Provise Management Group.
Well, first of all, Steve, let me thank you very much for those kind words at the opening of the show. Provise Management Group is a financial planning and investment management firm. We have offices in Clearwater and in Tampa, but we have clients in 34 states, serving about 1,200 families, and managing about $1.9 billion on behalf of those clients, many of which I might mention are not-for-profit companies, where we're helping them with their investment management, with their endowment, et cetera. But we are a financial planning firm first and foremost, Steve, and we believe that if we do a written financial plan at the front end of an engagement with a client, that we have a much better understanding as to how we manage that money on their behalf, because we view investment management as a subset of a financial plan, along with asset protection, retirement planning, estate planning, education planning, you name it. All of that goes into a financial plan. So as you know, we offer a 1-hour free consultation in either our Clearwater or Tampa office. And for those that are outside of the Tampa Bay area, we'll also work with you by Zoom, which has become obviously very popular over the last 4 years since we ended up with this thing called COVID that forced all of us to learn how to use Teams and Blue Jeans and Zoom and all the other virtual methods, including this one, I might add, in doing the show itself. And if anybody would like to schedule that 1-hour consultation, all they have to do is reach out to us at the telephone number that happens to be flowing by right now, 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. 9022. And if you want to shoot me an email, please do. It's Ferrara@provise.com, right there across the bottom again. And you have a question, and we've got a number of questions this morning from listeners out there. So be happy to respond to any questions that we get.
Ray, boy, you have just built such an incredible company. Did you think when you first started the company that you would be where you are now?
uh, I, when the company started back in August of 1986, I thought that if we ever had $100 million of money under management, that would be success. And here we are, 19 times that at $1.9 billion. So, and growing. So, no, I guess I was thinking too small when I thought 100 million was a worthy target.
You know, it's amazing as people swear by your show. They love listening to your show, and we have you twice a month. But I am so glad now we are now covering the whole state of Florida. Well deserved, I must say. Let's start off. The Department of Labor recently introduced a policy about serving retirement plan participants at a fiduciary standard of care. Yet both Congress and lawsuits both oppose this move. Why is that?
Steve, let's back up for a second and let's talk about fiduciary standard of care. Essentially, what that means is someone who is providing advice needs to do so without any conflict of interest, and if there are any conflicts of interest, to disclose those and to mitigate them to the extent that they can. In other words, they must put your interest, the client's interest, above their own. That's a fiduciary standard of care. And now, for many of us who've been doing this since the late 80s, when we first started with Provise, and so it's a bit perplexing to us as to why people would oppose that advisors actually put their clients ahead of their own interest. But the rule that was promulgated by the Department of Labor says that everybody who gives advice, even if it's just one-time advice to a retirement plan participant, with a couple of exceptions, if it's just general education as an example, but if they're making a specific recommendation, you should roll your money out of your 401k plan to do this, that should be done at a fiduciary standard of care. Primarily, the insurance industry is opposed to this because it would mean that they would probably end up selling less of some very high-priced annuities that are often used by advisors to have people invest their money without looking at other alternatives that might be less costly to the plan participant. Congress, I'm guessing, gets lots of money from the insurance industry in the forms of political contributions, and the insurance companies have put pressure on Congress to try to dissuade the Department of Labor or prohibit the Department of Labor from doing this. But from our perspective, and we do say this somewhat selfishly, because we act as a fiduciary in all 99.8% of our relationships with individuals. And so if you're not dealing with a fiduciary advisor, one that's putting your interests ahead of their own, you should not, in our opinion, should go find somebody else to seek out advice. And, in that regard, give us a call for 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022, or drop me an email and let me know that you'd like to chat, and we'll find time to provide you with a 1-hour complimentary consultation, where I promise you nothing will be sold during that hour. It is simply, let's get to know each other.
I love how you run your business, Ray. You've been a big fan of the collaborative divorce process. Can you explain what that is and what it does?
Well, Steve, I will tell you that when we get involved in working with clients who unfortunately go through the difficult process of getting a divorce, the attorneys do not like to see us because we just kind of cut through all of the you-know-what And,
Right.
let's just get to the core issues and let's get this done and over with as quickly as we can. Too many attorneys want to drag the process out as much as they possibly can to bill as much as they possibly can. And a number of years ago, a group of attorneys got together and said there's got to be a better way to handle these divorces. And they came up with what is now known as the collaborative divorce process. And while it is too much to explain totally here, at a very high level, essentially what happens is the attorneys and the two parties, the husband and wife, or today, husband and husband, wife and wife, will all sign an agreement as to how the process is going to be laid out up front. And if any one person violates the agreement, it all blows up. And it is designed to be collaborative in trying to get together and to make it as efficient and as less costly as possible. It doesn't mean it doesn't still cost, because divorce always costs, with the attorney fees, accounting fees, and financial planning fees that are sometimes involved. And that's part of the collaborative process. It's not just the attorneys, but each side brings in experts, financial planners, accountants if they're needed, to sit down at a table, try to have a non-emotional, logical conversation over this entire process, and to do it, as I said, as at least cost as possible and in a very efficient way. And if anybody would like to learn more about the collaborative divorce process, happy to refer them to attorneys who do this. We do not direct it. We're just involved in it when it does occur as a financial planner. But I would encourage anyone who is looking to get a divorce to explore and determine for themselves whether they feel the collaborative divorce process would be a proper alternative to just the old hard and fast way of getting into the room and slugging it out.
Ray, do you have to have a lot of assets to get involved with the collaborative divorce process?
Well, divorce is divorce. Obviously, it's less of a financial issue, those with less money. But there are still important financial decisions to be made. Again, one should explore what it would cost to go through the process, compare it to the traditional methodology, and then make a choice. The more complicated a life has become for a married couple, the more complicated is going to be the divorce as well. And this is what the collaborative divorce process tries to sort out and to make it as easy as possible. It's never easy, but to make it easier.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Good news. The tax season's now behind us for another year. What changes do you expect to occur this year?
Well, this year is probably going to be a lot like last year from the tax law, because it's an election year, and it's highly unlikely that Congress is going to pass any tax legislation in this current year. They will have to gear up for next year, however, and begin laying the groundwork for 2025. And why next year? Well, it's not just the year after an election. It also happens to be the year before the 2017 tax law sunsets most of its major provisions. This was the tax law that President Trump was able to get through Congress in December of 2017. It significantly lowered taxes for individuals, saving them over the time period about $1.9 billion, along with tax cuts to corporations, and a significantly higher estate tax exemption are the three major areas. So a tremendous amount of change that's going to occur next year. And you're going to hear a lot of talk about that in the upcoming election, from a standpoint that already President Biden has talked about raising taxes rather significantly on individuals who are making over $400,000. And his proposal would increase the tax bill over the next 10 years by $5 billion. And Steve, I try not to get political on this show, but I'd have to say if we would actually use, I said 5 billion, try $5 trillion. If we were actually going to raise $5 trillion worth of taxes and use it to pay down our debt, I could almost be in favor of some type of a hike that was guaranteed to be put into a lockbox to be spent by the government to pay down the debt. But I'm afraid you and I know politicians all too well. Yeah. If they got more money, they're just going to spend it. Exactly. And that's that is a problem. Like I said, I don't want to get political, but I got a little close there to the edge. But so
kind of hard not to, isn't it, Ray?
It is. So people for this year don't have too much to worry about. Things will the exemption amount has gone up on the estate tax. The standard deduction has gone up, so as well. So there'll be a little less that'll be paid in taxes as a result of that on the same amount of income. But you need to be starting to think ahead to 18, 20 months from now when the tax law will change significantly. And the key is going to be who gets elected when to the White House, to the Senate, to the House. We could have a divided House again, just as we do now. It will have a dramatic impact as we leave 2025 and move into 2026. But the time to start thinking about it is now, not doing stuff about it, thinking about it and moving forward.
Ray, we know retirement planning is so important. When it comes to retirement planning, how do you factor in longevity?
Well, Steve, I will tell you that when we first started doing financial plans back in the late 80s, we were using 90 as the year that the plan would go out to. That changed somewhere in the early 2000s to 95. And today we go to age 100. And people say, oh, I'm never going to live that long, or I don't want to live that long. Maybe they're not going to live that long, but I've met very few people who actually want to die. If they have a quality life at age 100, why not continue to enjoy it? And the fact is that a married couple at age 65 in reasonably good health, not great health, but reasonably good health, will have a joint life expectancy of somewhere around 26 years, which takes them to 90, takes one of them to age 91. But if you add in the fact that that's the average, those with better health, better genes, those that have access to better health care, whatever scientific breakthroughs might come about over the next 10, 15, 20 years for a cure for cancer, as an example, better ways to fight heart disease. It is not unusual to think that people will live to age 100. And in fact, in terms of a percentage basis, the number of people turning age 100 today is the greatest cohort increasing that existed any 10-year age group in America today. So on a percentage basis, more people are turning 100 today than any other age group. So it is entirely possible that people will live that long. And so we factor in longevity in that way. But one of the things you have to also factor in is, unfortunately, in doing the planning, is sometimes people aren't blessed with good genes. Sometimes people aren't blessed with good health. And you have to factor in a opportunity for them to be able to enjoy the quality of life that they would like to enjoy, and what that shorter period of anticipated life expectancy might be like. We had one client who married about 12 years ago. when he was 63, married a lovely lady, age 50, and he had a 10-year life expectancy based on the disease that he had. And, we talked to them about, okay, we'll get that travel in, do things while you can, et cetera. And here he is today, 12 years later, still alive, as healthy today as he was then, due to advances in medicine within the disease that he has. But both of them are appreciative of the fact that we gave them permission to go spend their money and go do things while they could, because one didn't know that this is what was going to happen. But now they're able to still continue to enjoy a fruitful life together. So sometimes you have to use longevity on the wrong end, the short end, to make sure that people still can do things as a quality of life. And Steve, as you know, in my own personal situation, unfortunately, my wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 9 years ago. And I suspected 2 years before that something was going on. And up until the time of COVID, we continued to have a quality life and travel together and do things. And delightful that we delighted that we did. Got to travel to all 7 continents, 79 countries in our lifetime, because we can't travel today, and so sometimes one spouse is still healthy, thank goodness, the other isn't, and so you don't want to look back and say, "Wish I had a," when you could have. Pardon all the poor English.
Well, we will. That's the first time you've told that. We will keep her in prayer. And Ray, I got to tell you, we love having you on the show. Tell people how they can reach you.
Steve, folks can reach us. The telephone number scrolling across the bottom right now, 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022. We have offices in Clearwater and in Tampa. And for those that are outside of the Tampa Bay area, or even inside Tampa Bay, if they would prefer, we'll be happy to visit with them by Zoom. And we always offer a 1-hour complimentary consultation to anyone. And this is not a bait and switch. Come in, we're going to sell you stuff, because that's not what we do. It's simply, let's get together, let's get to know each other. If we can help you, and if you're comfortable with us, then we're going to be delighted to add you to our client family. If we're not able to help, perhaps we can refer you to someone who can, and with whatever your situation may be. And we do that very frequently by referring them to an accountant or to an attorney that is better suited to help them for whatever it is that they're looking for. So again, 727-441-9022, or shoot me an email, ferrara@provise.com. And there it is across the bottom, ferrara@provise.com. Be happy to respond to any of your comments and requests.
Ray, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend next week, and we will see you again next month.
We'll see you in June. And one thing with Memorial Day, let's keep in mind all those that sacrificed the ultimate sacrifice to give us the freedom that we have here in America, and the opportunities that are presented as a result. See you in a couple of weeks.
Ray, you're the best. God bless. That was Ray Ferrara, Provise Money Management. We're just so blessed to have him on our show. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about personal injury. We've got 2 of the finest attorneys in Florida. We'll be right back.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
Yeah, that was quite a little short break. We are so excited about having such great personal injury attorneys. they do such great work, and it's not so easy finding how would I say, great personal injury attorneys. I learned a long time ago it's not about who's got the best yellow page ad, the biggest yellow page ad, or the nicest looking website. We want somebody that can absolutely, especially when it comes to auto accidents and slip and falls. Uh, we have been associated with this next firm for almost 2 years now, and both the ladies just do such a great job. And let's welcome them in Lauren and Angela.
Hi,
Here
Steve.
you are. Oh, I got
Good
both of you
morning.
today. Good morning. How is everybody in the Tampa area?
Fantastic.
We just did a show right before yours, and we had some really bad weather here in South Florida, and doesn't sound like that you got it. But I was telling everybody how lucky we are to have a firm like yours that is been around for so long, has done so well for your clients. Lauren, tell people about your firm.
Well, we're a personal injury law firm. We handle people who have been hurt as the result of other people's negligence. That includes car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, bicycle accidents. If you're a pedestrian and hurt by someone else, medical malpractice, dog bites, anywhere, wrongful death, anywhere where someone was injured because of somebody else's wrongdoing. Those are the kind of cases we take. It's a boutique law firm. It's all Angela and I do. We've been doing it collectively over 50 years, Ange? I think.
Over.
Over 50 years. We were child prodigies, Steve. Don't let the numbers fool you. And we love what we do. We love what we do. You'll get personalized attention. You meet with either Angela or myself, or sometimes both of us. You're never passed off to just someone in the firm, and an assistant, or I don't know, what do they call them, case managers, or you get the attorney.
And that is, believe it or not, that is not always the case. You all have built up such an incredible reputation firm. But what's really amazing? It's really tough, especially if someone's had an auto accident for the first time, or a slip and fall, or a dog bite. It's like, who do I hire? And I got to tell you, a friend of mine once hired a family member, and they said it was the worst experience of their life. It's really important who you choose to represent you, isn't it?
It's very important who you choose. Not every personal injury attorney is the same. Not every attorney is the same. Some are far more experienced, which I think is the most important point when choosing an attorney. You've got to look at the experience, not just the fact that they tell you that they do personal injury work. Lauren and I were talking this morning before we got ready to log on, and something had come up over the weekend, and we thought that it was very important to change what we originally planned on discussing and to discuss what I want to talk about now. More of a public service announcement. And I think that this may actually really help people if they heed this warning. I had a new client who wanted to come and meet this weekend. So I came in on Saturday to meet with her, and she had hired a very large firm to represent her. The accident was about a week ago, or almost 2 weeks ago. And it took her a few days to decide to hire an attorney. But when she reached out to this law firm, she was told that before she could speak with anybody, she had to sign the paperwork. And she's a pretty intelligent woman. So she just thought that, okay, well, I'll have to sign some paperwork and then I'll get to speak to an attorney. Well, what the paperwork that she ended up signing was a contract to be represented by them. So before they would even talk to her, I mean, I want you to understand how mind-blowing this is, Steve. Before they would even speak to her, have an attorney speak to her, or anybody with sort of knowledge about personal injury, she had to sign their, quote, paperwork. They didn't tell her, you have to sign our contract to represent you, our representation agreement. They said you have to sign some paperwork. So she signed the paperwork. Then she waited to hear from an attorney. That never happened. She ended up hearing from somebody who was designated as a, quote, case manager. And a case manager is really nobody with a law degree. Sometimes they're former insurance adjusters. Sometimes they're just glorified receptionists who have been working personal injury for a long time, so they get the name of case manager. But this case manager was asking her questions about her accident and telling her what to do. And the client was pretty smart. And she said, you know, you're giving me legal advice, but you're not an attorney. And that is what's called the unauthorized practice of law. It's a third-degree felony in the state of Florida. And the case manager was taken aback a little bit and said, well, no, I'm not giving you legal advice here. I'm not giving you legal advice. She says, but you are. I'm asking you legal questions, and you are giving me answers and telling me what I should and should not do. She never got to speak to an attorney. She doesn't even know who the attorney is. And meanwhile, she's got a contract with them. So she was very quick to discharge that attorney by way of an email and retained our firm. So, Lauren, you want to talk about what people need to be aware of?
Yeah. I mean, just going back to how mind-blowing it is. Normally, the normal course of events is you get into an accident, you wind up calling the attorney, right? And you ask to speak to an attorney or someone about your case. That's your consultation. And in our firm, at least, you get to come in and meet with us in person and do the consultation in person versus over the phone. Here, what this firm did was made her sign on as a client. In other words, agree to the fee, the contingency fee, meaning a third if it's 33 and a third if it's settled, or 40% if we have to try it, before even knowing anything about the case, before seeing if maybe she doesn't like the attorney. You know, sometimes personalities don't mingle, right? Before knowing who the attorney is, so that they can do some research and find out, wow, do I think that this attorney has enough experience to handle my claim? But none of that happened. They didn't give her the opportunity to do any of her own research. They just said, before you can even speak to us, you have to sign on as a client, which when Angela told me this, I couldn't believe it, because that's not the normal course of events. That's the first time I ever heard of that, where you have to sign on and commit to retaining a certain law firm before they even give you the advertised free consult. We've spoken about that before, Steve, how attorneys go on and advertise it's a free consultation. You're giving ice away in the winter. We all give free consultations. It's nothing, it's no big sale. It's no big bargain. It's a free consultation to see if it's a case that we'd be interested in and if you would want to retain us. So yeah, it's crazy. And then to go on with the unauthorized practice of law, and Angela's right. They absolutely were giving her legal advice. You're not allowed to do that. If the assistant is being asked questions, the proper course of action is for her to say, let me get the attorney, or schedule a time for you to speak with the attorney, because these are questions the attorney should really be answering. There's a reason why we go to law school, Steve, right? So we know more than the assistant would. And I mean, when Angela and I were talking about it this morning, mind blown doesn't even begin to address it.
Let me just shed a little more light on this, so that the viewers really can appreciate the problem here. Lauren and I, we never name names, and there are some really big law firms, and it kind of intrigues Lauren and I when people pick, these large firms, and we're like, why did you pick them? Well, I don't know. I saw them on TV, or I heard them on the radio, or, whatever. And they seem like they're a big firm, and so they can handle my case. The problem that people have is once they call these large law firms, there's a call center, obviously, or an answering service, if you will. And they take the calls and they immediately either set it up with the client by email, or an app on the phone, and the client will sign the paperwork on their phone before they speak to an attorney. But you don't know the attorney you're going to get.
Right.
I mean, if you have a law firm that has 20 attorneys, 10 attorneys, 500 attorneys, you're letting them pick who's going to represent you. So why do people continue to go down that road and hire these firms? Are you getting somebody that got out of law school this 2 months ago? Or are you getting somebody that's seasoned, that has, been doing personal injury work for over 30 years and has tried cases and understands the law, understands the courtroom, understands the system? But you don't have that option when you go with one of those bigger firms. Unless you are that person, that client that is doing their research online, and you can say, I want so-and-so to represent me. I've researched this attorney on the website. I want this attorney to represent me. Otherwise, it's potluck. And so how can somebody who is in a time of desperation, they're injured, they may not be able to work, they don't have a car, they're looking at a possible surgery. I mean, some accidents are just devastating, and they don't have the option to pick who they want to represent them. They're being just, you're going to get an attorney, they'll be in touch with you within the next week or 2 weeks. Those first 2 weeks are crucial. I mean, so, it's so, I say mind-blowing, but it just seems counterintuitive to somebody who needs representation to go down that road. So Lauren and I, if you heed anything that we say, please do not sign any paperwork before you get to speak to the attorney that you want to represent you. Interview them. Make sure it's a good fit. Make sure that they have the emotion and the sympathy and the empathy in addition to the knowledge. And then say, I'm comfortable with you, and now I will sign the contract. Because this paperwork that they're being asked to sign is really a contract that binds them. And I don't think people understand that. So it's a huge red flag. Do not sign any paperwork until you meet with an attorney, speak to them on the phone, and make sure that's the attorney that you want. I mean, and if they tell you that they will not let you speak to an attorney, or you can't go and they can't go any further until you sign the paperwork, I say run. And I say run fast. It's
Red
not
flag.
okay. It's just really not okay to do that. So,
When we talked this morning about what you wanted to talk about today, I'm going to give everybody a little insight. I've been doing this for 12 years. We're opening up a new market in Chicago, and I sent out letters to law firms that we're going to be looking for an expert in personal injury. I got 6 phone calls from law firms that never even read my letter, never read it, just called me. And it's like you would think that they would have read the letter. So when you're calling a law firm, many a times they don't even know who you are, why you're even calling, and you get an intake person, just like you said, who basically doesn't know anything. with your firm, they're going to talk to one of you two. And I think that's one of the greatest things about your firm.
You know what I wanted to say? When you have a big law firm and you've got a lot of money and you've got a lot of lawyers, why aren't the lawyers then the first point of contact when somebody calls in? I mean, you've got the lawyers. You've got the volume of attorneys. Again, it could be you've got 10 attorneys, you've got 15, you've got 20, you've got 100. I don't know. But if you've got the attorneys, why not have the attorneys take those calls? Why do Lauren and I, when it's just Lauren and I in a small boutique firm, why are we always taking calls? We're taking calls at 11 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning. I was here on Saturday. Lauren was here yesterday on Sunday. Oh, yeah, no, I came in on my day off because that was the only day that this client could come in. And she was distraught and she was scared and I needed to be there for her. And so that's what we do. But how is it that these big law firms that have so many lawyers can't actually designate, a few of them to take the after-hour calls or the weekend calls? Why are non-lawyers taking these calls?
And let's not forget that it's not limited to intake. I mean, Angela and I have met with and signed up clients through the years from who had the lawyers at the bigger firms where they've gone 6 months and never spoke with an attorney yet.
Oh,
so it's not, wow. That's all the time. So and ask, what's your lawyer's name? I don't know. I've never gotten a letter from them. I've never gotten an email from them. I've never spoken to them on the phone. I've asked who my attorney is, and I can't get past the gatekeeper, who's the case manager. So it's not just limited to intake. There are folks out there who have hired these firms, and they've never gotten to the lawyer. We're talking 6 months into your case. And to say that that's ridiculous, it's also crucial because now with the new law in effect, the statute of limitations has been reduced from 4 years to 2 years on a negligence case. That includes a motor vehicle accident, wrongful death has always been 2 years, but motorcycle accident, trucking accident, dog bite accident, anything involving negligence has been reduced from 4 to 2 years. So now you're a quarter of a way into your statute of limitations, and you don't even know who your lawyer is. You don't know if they just graduated law school within the 6 months that you hired them. You don't know if they've been practicing for 20 plus years. You don't know if they've ever seen the inside of a courtroom outside of a TV docudrama. That's really important. Hiring an attorney is such a critical and important stage in the process, and yet some firms treat it like it's no big deal. I mean, this is a point in your life you're hurt. You may be out of work. You're short on money. You're scared. You don't know what's going to happen to you in the future. You don't know if you're going to be able to go back to work. You don't know how you're going to pay next month's mortgage. These are all real concerns that people have when they've been in an accident. How am I going to take care of my children? Am I going to be able to do the things I used to do around the house? How is this affecting my marriage? The real concerns that this case manager really doesn't even recognize because they've taken so many calls over a period of a month that you're just in the shuffle. You're lost in the shuffle. And meanwhile, you're sitting on the other end of this phone or at the other end of the keyboard saying, who cares? Nobody cares about me. Wait a minute. I've hired an attorney. You're taking a third of my settlement if I get a settlement, 40% if you file a lawsuit. And you don't even know my name. You don't know what issues I'm having. You don't know that last month I had to borrow, money from my mother to pay for my mortgage. And I don't know where next month's mortgage is coming from. You don't know that I'm hurting and the doctor isn't addressing my concerns. It shouldn't be like that. It really shouldn't be like that.
Well, I'd like to make an analogy here because when people need an attorney, let's say for a criminal matter, okay? I mean, you're talking about when you're looking at facing jail time or you're getting a divorce and there's children involved. Do you call a big law firm and just let them pick an attorney for you for something like that? You don't. People don't do that. They will speak to that criminal defense attorney. They will speak to that family law lawyer, and they will interview and they will say, this is my situation. Am I going to lose my children? Am I going to lose my house? How am I going to support, you get to sit and you get to talk to an attorney face to face and say, I like this divorce attorney. This divorce attorney is going to fight for me. Why should it be any different in a personal injury case? If you see an advertisement for a law firm, Jake, John, and Jane law firm. Jake, John, and Jane. They're on TV. They're on billboards. They're in the phone book. They're all over the internet. Great. Are you going to get Jake, John, or Jane? Or are you going to get the attorney that they just hired as an associate, and you didn't even get to say, yeah, I'm good with that. That's not why you're calling. You're calling because you want to meet with Jake, John, or Jane. So again, it's Lauren and I continue to be flabbergasted by the volume of people who call these bigger law firms thinking that it's going to be a great experience because they're a big law firm, they're successful. And they end up calling, us, they call our friends, other friends, lawyers that we know down the street, hey, I never met with this attorney. I don't know who it is. I shouldn't have signed up there. People need to think about this from the beginning. They need to think about it from the beginning and be mindful. It's important.
It's really important. You've done so many cases, and somebody comes to you to retain your services. You're going to basically be able to tell them what you can do for them. And, sometimes firms take on cases that they probably shouldn't, and it gets the person's hopes up that they're going to get a lot of money maybe, and it doesn't ever happen. And with your firm, when they call you, you've done so many cases that you can have an idea of what kind of settlement you can get. And you don't string people along. Because I told you once before, I saw people in the Yellow Page days that people would hire the one who had the biggest ad. Wasn't the best firm or who was going to do the best job. And that's really sad. I think people should know the questions that should be asked when they're interviewing a law firm. Because a lot of people don't know even what to ask, except how much can you get me, or do I have a case?
Absolutely. And be mindful, Steve, that each case is unique, right?
Yes.
Every case is unique. We can base it on, how much insurance coverage there is. Once we find that out, maybe a no-brainer. You broke your leg and there's only $10,000 in coverage. So that's a no-brainer. But every case has certain factors that go into it. And each one is different because, it's a different plaintiff. It's a different injury. It's a different type of crash. So any lawyer that tells you, I can guarantee you, I'll get you X amount of money for your injuries, run. The same way Angela told you, run before, run quicker now. Because any lawyer worth their weight in gold won't do that. Well, we've only got a couple.
Oh, you got questions?
We've only got a couple of minutes left. I just want everybody to know we're going to be running the show again next week at 9:25. So if you missed any of it today, or tell your friends about it, the show will be run again next week. This is such an important topic. Tell people how they can reach you.
Sure, Steve. Well, our main office is in Tarpon Springs, Florida. We're on the west coast of Florida near Tampa, but we are licensed to practice anywhere in the state of Florida, and we have practiced. You can reach us by calling us at 727-937-3171, or go to our website at www.zervosinjurylaw.com. You can look us up. And you can read all about Lauren and I. You can hear about some of our results. And if you want to just give us a call and say that, I heard you or saw you on Steve O's show live, Ask the Experts TV, we'll take your call and we'll speak with you. That's what we do.
Ladies, we're so lucky to have you. Thank you so much. And folks, remember, if you missed any of today's show, you can watch it again next week at 9:25. Have a good Memorial weekend. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Steve. Take care. Bye-bye.
That's what a great firm, gosh. Zervos and Calta, personal injury lawyers. That's it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week. Well, yeah, we'll be back again with you next week, even though it's Memorial Day. Have a good week, everybody. God bless. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.